Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. The Democratic leaders in the Senate, are warning other Democrats and independents who typically vote with them. They are warning them about lethal amendments to the $1.9 trillion stimulus plan from the Republican Party that they will simply not accept. By the way, I'll give you a couple of examples of these amendments. In fact, the three people that the Democrats are extremely concerned about because they cannot afford to lose the support of these individuals include Senator Joe Manchin, the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, Senator Kristen Sinema, the Democrat from Arizona, and Senator Angus King, who's the independent from Maine, whose vote the Democrats count on in order for Democrats to get to the 50 vote threshold and then get the vote of the Vice President Kamala Harris. There she is. Hello, Vice President. In order for the Democrats to get to that 51 vote threshold and pass the budget reconciliation in the Senate, they need Senator Joe Manchin. They need Senator Kristen Sinema. They need Senator Angus King from Maine. They cannot afford to lose a single one of these individuals. Here's a headline of an article from CNN on your screen. Senate Democratic leaders want members to hold firm against lethal Republican amendments, GOP amendments. GOP is a grand old party on the relief bill. Now, I want to be clear that there are many hot button issues between the Republicans and the Democrats. The number one issue is state and local aid because the Republicans want zero state and local aid and the Democrats want $360 billion. Number two, immigration is a huge issue. In fact, this is one of the lethal amendments that was being referred to in this article. Here's a brand new headline from Politico. Senate is set to take up the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill for a votorama for multiple amendments. We're going to see some long speeches. We're going to see a lot of shenanigans. We're going to see people arguing. We're going to see people on TV, probably all the way up until late in the night, maybe the early hours of the morning, on Wednesday night, Thursday morning. And the headline reads, Senate set to take up the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill as soon as Wednesday. And the Democrats are racing against time to get all of this passed before the 14th of this month. And here's an example of one of the lethal amendments. Keep in mind that these are considered necessary by the Republicans, but are considered lethal for the Democrats because the Democrats are like, oh, if this is there, we're going to lose support. Some people are not going to vote for it. And some of the examples of the lethal amendments include the $15 an hour minimum wage. Keep in mind, Joe Manchin, the conservative Democrat, and Senator Kristen Sinema have already said they are not in favor of the $15 an hour minimum wage. So that effectively is out of the picture right now. The good news is the $1,400 stimulus check does look like it's absolutely there, does look like it's going to be signed into law. So you can expect that money. In my opinion, if your electronic deposit information is on file with the IRS, you should be able to get the money by the third week of this month. And if you're waiting for a check in the mail, it could be the end of the month, it could be sometime in April, depending on how the IRS starts mailing out the checks and depending on the level of overload with the United States Postal Service. But speaking of amendments, this is important. What the Republicans did last month when they started discussing the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan in the Senate, what the Republicans did was that they offered a non-binding amendment to the budget, to this reconciliation process, that would prohibit undocumented immigrants from receiving stimulus checks. Now, 8 Senate Democrats did cross party lines to vote for the measure, and that made a lot of progressives very angry. But here's the ironic thing. Undocumented immigrants are not going to get stimulus checks. If you've been watching my videos, let's say you have a family of 4 and the husband has a social, in this example, let's just say the spouse does not have a social, but the 2 kids have socials. In this scenario, the husband and the 2 kids would, assuming the kids are adults and over the age of 17 and are dependents on the couple's tax return, then in this scenario, the husband and the 2 kids would get the $1,400 stimulus checks, but the spouse would not. So undocumented immigrants are not getting stimulus checks, but the Republicans are using this as a rallying cry to say undocumented families are getting stimulus checks. So again, this becomes a political talking point because politics is about timing. It's about opportunity. It's about tribalism. It's about us against them. And speaking of lethal amendments, many Senate Republicans, including the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, the number 1 Republican in the United States Senate, have been very upset with the Democrats for doing this in a non-bipartisan way, in a strictly one-dimensional partisan Democratic way. They feel that this needs to be a whole lot more targeted So there is a possibility, speaking of lethal amendments, that the Republicans might say, hey, it shouldn't be $400 a week. It should be $300 a week. It shouldn't be until the end of August. It should be only up until June or July. And on the other hand, you have Senator Ron Wyden, the Democrat from Oregon, who's going to try and extend the unemployment benefits, which, by the way, go on until the end of August in this bill. He's going to try and extend them until September. And so again, while all of these amendments go on, the Democrats cannot afford to lose a single vote, including a vote from Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, and Angus King. This is a very important consideration for the Democrats. Other lethal amendments could include them actually trying to make the stimulus checks, them meaning the Republicans, make the stimulus checks even more targeted. And that is something that the Republicans have wanted. In fact, the Republican leader, the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, said that the Democrats have chosen to go a completely partisan route. He said, this is where we are, a bad process, a bad bill, and a missed opportunity to do right by working families, according to Mitch McConnell. I can assure you other lethal amendments will include trying to do away with state and local funding. Basically, we'll hear the Republicans say over and over again that we shouldn't be bailing out, the American taxpayer should not be bailing out poorly run Democratic states, because that is going to be another amendment that the Republicans want. And I can assure you that Democrats are simply going to say no. And keep in mind that the Republicans can ask for as many amendments as they want. But the key thing for the Democrats is not to lose the support of the three senators I mentioned. There they are again, all three senators. The Democrats simply cannot afford to lose the support of a single one of those senators, and you can be sure that the Republicans are going to try and essentially make things as difficult for one of those Democratic senators or the independent from Maine, Angus King, to flip over to the side of the Republicans, which could jeopardize the entire $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan as far as the Republicans are concerned. I can tell you that my personal opinion is this bill is going to pass. However, we are going to see a little bit of drama this week before we see some sort of a consensus next week. That is my opinion. And I do believe that some things will need to be compromised somewhere. But because the Democrats have the majority of 51 as far as the budget reconciliation is concerned, this is considered a simple majority. A real majority in the Senate requires significantly more votes. But since the Democrats have a simple majority, I do expect the Democrats to do everything they can to appease Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, and Angus King from Maine in order to be able to get to the magic number of 51 to pass the entire $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan by budget reconciliation, get it over to the desk of the president for signature so it becomes law before the 14th of March. That is what I see happening. So that's it, everyone. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I appreciate you watching. Please click the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. That would mean a lot to me. I would really appreciate that, and that does help out the YouTube algorithm. I'll keep you updated of all the unbelievable shenanigans that we can expect between the Democrats and the Republicans. But I do expect this is not going to come down to the wire or anything like that. But there could be some provisions that make us go, huh? That didn't make any sense. But many times when things work in DC, when they do work, because a lot of times they don't, and when they do work, it seems like they don't make sense. I'll help you make sense of it. That is my promise to you. Thank you for being a viewer and a subscriber. This channel, the Ignition Time channel, is about the country, it's about the economy, and it's about your money. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.